Hi there, YouTube. I found out recently that crash test dummies had effectively assumed that it would be men in the car accident, which I guess at the time that might have been kind of made sense if you were a traditionalist. You'd assume that women aren't going to be the ones driving, but tradition obviously went out the window a long time ago, and of course women own cars and drive them all over hell and creation in our current society. And yet no one seems to have thought to make a woman-sized crash test dummy to see how she'd do in a car accident. But when I found out, I just sort of, all right, that does it. Put me in charge because most of my friends are women, and I'm gonna bring them in as consultants for all design and testing. If I were in the boardroom on those decisions, I just wanted to say that with most of my people being women, I wouldn't be able to, think like that. I'd be screaming at the higher ups that we needed female-sized dummies, simply because whether it's purely platonic or something more, women are always on my mind in one capacity or another. Even if it's just in the back of my mind, I can't imagine being so fucking blind that I wouldn't even test car accidents with a woman-sized dummy. I just can't. That's a little glitch thing that kind of broke my brain there. Where I started glitching out about that. I just can't believe that the world is that fucking dumb about it. That's not me. Too many of my friends are women to be that dumb. I'm always thinking about them in one capacity or another. So I just that's not something I would have done. And I just had to come out and say that because I think it comes up as a point of debate about well, anyways, if we talk about feminism, it often comes up. But the thing is that I just want to say, look, I know, I acknowledge it's fucked up. But in fact, honestly, I'm all in favor of women-only gyms and everything, given all the complications and problems and everything that are out there and everything. And I think women should be able to work out in peace and not have to deal with our leering eyes and everything. It doesn't really bother me. That's the case. That they would you know that would be a thing, and I'm not outraged about it. It makes sense to me. To segregate our society somewhat so women have a safe space that they can go to that we're not included. That doesn't mean that we have to constantly and always be segregated. It just means a woman goes to a gym, she doesn't necessarily want a man looking at her while she's in the gym. Whatever. Good. And obviously they wouldn't start existing if there wasn't some sort of demand for them. So whatever. Yeah, and it just, so basically all I'm really trying to say at the end of the day is please keep in mind and bear in mind that some of us men are not in positions of power over decisions like that, and that it's not, the responsibility for it doesn't ultimately fall on us because we weren't even in the room for those kinds of decisions. If hypothetically, imagine I did work for the companies that were doing this kind of testing, I would have been screaming, bloody murder, that you needed to make something more, appropriate to the size of the average woman in the United States, and also, ones for edge case women too.